I got four of a kind on everything. I gotta live like a king. Hey, catch this rhythm. You feel that? That's called playerism. I'm on the scene, a player clean, poker face, four queens. I got four of a kind on everything. Dig this, living elite. I don't feel complete without kicking at my feet in a Rolls Royce every week. Maybe this is deep. Listen close when I speak. I need to at least, cause I'm too much. Got two nuts and give zero fucks. I've been player too long for you to tell me having two women is too wrong. The way I get my groove on. If I can't have two, then I gotta move on. Even my car is two-tone. So when I roam, I gotta bring two home. Quit banging my line, ho. Quit banging my line, ho. When you see me act like you don't even know me, ho. When you see me act like you don't even know me, ho.
Understand what we're doing here. Like William, for example, was at the last conference. Brandon,
come on, baby, get a clue. How you do what you do? How do you fall in love with me, but I'm not in love with you? Quit banging my... Peace to the saints! Peace to the saints!
Peace to the saints. Today's topic is on Elizabeth Holmes, whom many of you may have heard of, and those who have not, you're going to get the most accurate introduction to Miss Holmes that anyone has ever gotten. You see, because when she first came out, she was known as a startup darling, a woman breaking the glass ceiling, a genius, making strides for all of those who are oppressed, women, the coloreds, everybody, breaking that glass ceiling, and not only breaking the glass ceiling, but creating a unicorn of a startup in the medical field and saving lives. She was the female Steve Jobs. Well, at least that's how she was portrayed. And this true story of Elizabeth Holmes that I'm going to tell you is one that reveals to us a lot of realities about today's, shall we say, about the fiction that we live today. And it also signals the kind of decline we're seeing in the West, which has really started with the white family and has trickled on to others. You see, the concept of the glass ceiling, let us start to analyze that. This is the idea created by white gender feminists who have the idea that essentially the white man is holding them down. Quite a pity that they sell out their own mate, their natural mate, by saying that the white man is holding them down. How does that make sense that he's holding you down when what he's done is have you within his household, provide for you financially, protect you and keep you out of harm's way, but he's holding you down. And for all that he earns, does he not share that with you? But no, what the white woman has been trying to do is unseat the white man so that she can become the white man, that is the leader. And as she becomes the leader, she therefore marginalizes the white man into the weaker position. Quite a betrayal, actually. And this is only allowed by the weakness of the white man, which has occurred over time, you see. Hopefully, all of us men can get it back together, because things get bad when we let these unruly gender feminists rise up. And we're going to explore why with this case study in the Elizabeth Holmes saga. And this is a saga. That's why I made it a part one. I don't think this will be the most popular series that I do, but I think it'll be one of the most important. May I start by acknowledging via PayPal, Bence writes, missed the live, but it was absolutely cold and resonated 200% with me. Keep going, Marquett. You are killing it. Peace to the saints. Truly appreciate that. And let me acknowledge those who have come in via Cash App to support this meaningful work, for we don't babble every day about the same topics here. Kevin comes in by a Cash App. He writes, tuition, we'll catch the replay later. Understandable. Additionally, we had Marcos come in with tuition, writes peace to the, oh, that was Marco. He writes peace to the saints, and also shout out to Heels In comes in. Now, here's a funny one. We've described the glass ceiling, which is this idea that the white gender feminist, and what is a gender feminist? A gender feminist is different from an equity feminist. An equity feminist wants some level of equal opportunity between the male and the female. This seems reasonable. This would involve law. And as we can estimate today, the male and the female have equal opportunity. In some cases, you find that the female has law that favors her. Look inside of the court of divorce and family law. You'll see that she is greatly favored. And of course, the culture itself favors the female, whether we're talking about pretty privilege or we're talking about the fact that during times of war, they say, save the women and children, let the men fight and die, right? So there certainly is a cultural preference for the female. But somehow they still manage to complain. We find that the weaker party always seems to complain, whether it's the ethnic minority, it's the female, or what have you. Now, some of these parties are rightly placed in the weaker position, and they just need to accept it. In other cases, they just need to show and prove. Now, the white woman who is best off among women seems to have the most complaints and the biggest stage to leverage for her complaining. So she says there's a glass ceiling. I challenge that there is no real glass ceiling, especially not for the white woman. And we will see this proven, because if that were true, you wouldn't be able to commit $1 billion fraud. In fact, I further charge, and we're going to give you the evidence, that if she were a white man or a white male or a white young man, as she was 19 when she started to perpetrate this fraud, it wouldn't have worked. Let me summarize what she was able to do. She went to Stanford University, which is a prestigious university I know well. It was the rival of my university, which is the University of California, Berkeley. She went to this university and dropped out at the age of 19. Before she dropped out, she approached a very well-accomplished professor in the medical field, one Dr. Phyllis Gardner. Dr. Phyllis Gardner, of course, being a female in science and medicine, wants to support other white women and probably women in general. And so she puts forward her idea, which is the idea of a patch, which is basically a solve-all. It can diagnose issues and it can deliver antibiotics. Dr. Phyllis Gardner pointed out that antibiotics are fairly weak and they need to be concentrated more for this to work. And that's why antibiotics are delivered in a big bag. So this probably won't work. And furthermore, are you guys at home thinking, how is it that a 19-year-old is arrogant enough to think that without even a bachelor's degree, without even an associate's degree, certainly without a medical degree, not even a PhD, she certainly ain't a postdoc or a research scholar, somehow a 19-year-old kid has come upon the earth and is so radically genius that she knows things that people who have been in medical research for half a century don't know. And she's about to revolutionize the world with nearly no experience and no knowledge. It's true comedy. So she basically tells this grandiose story to another female. And I want you to understand this tenet of Marquettism, that your world is largely driven by two major factors, money and sex. And mind you, sometimes money is just used to leverage the sex. So sex is the number one driver. Money is often there. Now, when she goes to the female expert looks at her, says, you're a goddamn nut. And just to give you the direct quotation, oh, I actually had the article. Where did it go? It's a pity. But there is an article in which it quotes Dr. Phyllis, and she says, when Elizabeth Holmes told me her idea in medicine, her innovation, which was no innovation at all, I wanted to ask her if she was smoking dope. Instead, I just explained to her the science and why this will not work. At that point, I found that Elizabeth Holmes was completely disagreeable and would not accept any expert opinion or expertise I had to share with her. I knew she was an unreasonable, arrogant, narcissistic individual, right? So this is basically the opinion of another female of her, a female who's seeing her rightly, a female who would have been well positioned to help her, had all the skills, shared the same gender, was not the one putting up the glass ceiling, but she saw through the BS straight away. Then Elizabeth Holmes goes to her male faculty, tells the same ludicrous, grandiose story. What do these fools do in the face of a young female who looks sexually attractive to them in their advanced age, and even looks like one of their daughters, so they have some sympathy for this young white girl with blue eyes. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that might work. Saying that from an emotional base, an irrational base, a sexually driven base against all logic and reason. What is the likelihood that a 19-year-old knows anything in general? Especially when we're talking about major advancements in medicine that would revolutionize the entire world. I mean, what are the chances? They're very low. Especially even lower that it would be a female, because as I have pointed out, the science indicates that the bell curve on IQ shows that the males are at the extremes more often, extreme idiocy and extreme genius, not the females. They're more so collected in the middle. If that young man would have went to that first female professor, she would have told him the same thing she told Elizabeth Holmes, which was the truth. You're a nut. You're a nut. And you're arrogant. And if that same male would have went to those male professors that Elizabeth Holmes went to, those male professors would have told him the truth. You're a nut and you're arrogant. But being that it was a female, the sex drive was underlying things. The sympathy was underlying things. The pretty privilege was there. So she got favors that a male would not get. These are the advantages and favors that females get in the society that they never speak of. Favors that are even hard to estimate on a legal side because they're culturally positioned, they're biologically positioned, which makes it hard to legislate against. It's one of those things that you point out and people kind of don't see it so clearly. And we're going to get into the factual evidence. I'm going to provide you with some primary sources. You'll get to hear from the horse's mouth. But I say that to say this. If a white male who is 19 years old went to these older white men and said, hey, I have an idea that you didn't think of, the first flag that would have went up in these guys' heads is, you're 19. How could you have thought of something I haven't thought of or seen in my 50 years as an expert in this field at one of the most elite universities on the planet Earth? How did you see that and I didn't see that? They would have felt competitive, male to male, competitive. They would have been trying to prove him wrong. Further, him being a male, they would have said, let's slap his helmet around, see how he does. Let's put him to the test. Let's grill him. Let's make sure he knows what he knows. Let's test him, because that's what we do to men. We believe fundamentally that males are strong, and we will test that they are strong. And if they are not strong, we will leave them lying in the dirt. It's a cold, ruthless world out here. That is why, as men, I teach you to be durable. For this world will not give you any favor. This world will be hard on you as a man, and it's okay. That's how it's set up. We can't change that, and we shouldn't even seek to change it. We should just seek to be durable enough to thrive. Quite disgusting. Anyways, let's first analyze Elizabeth Holmes, who's pulled off a number of frauds. Fraud number one, if you've ever seen her, she tries to imitate a famous person that you know. Can anyone in the chat tell me what she commonly wears? In terms of her appearance, she's trying to imitate a great man. And what you'll find commonly with the females who try to step into the roles of men is that we see their inferiority quite clearly because they never go into positions of power as themselves. They always go masquerading as one of us being a man. You see, they never take femininity in there. They always try to emulate masculinity. Bingo. Bingo. I'm going to show you guys real quick Elizabeth Holmes. I'm just going to show you a little screenshot of this video I'm about to play you. And you're going to see who she's trying to emulate and look like. And it's sad because you know someone is not really genius when all they can do is imitate someone else who is genius. They are not the genuine article. Here is Elizabeth Holmes right here. This is the white woman who's managed to scam the whole world. She is wearing a black turtleneck. Seems familiar. Who else do we know for wearing a black turtleneck all day, every day? And why does he do it? Because he has better things to do than think about his outfit choices. And that great man is none other than Steve Jobs. Here we see him consistently wearing a black turtleneck. And yes, he is a tech entrepreneur and an innovator, and he is the very one that she has tried to emulate. Only difference between her and Steve Jobs is that he was the real deal. and she's a goddamn fraud. So that's step number one in her creating this fake image. And it's just such a pity that while doing this in the Bay Area, she was in Palo Alto in San Francisco, which is a part of the Bay Area, the greater Bay Area. It's like, how did they not see this a mile away? Furthermore, so that's step one. You're emulating a man in his style of dress in the most blatant of ways. You see, that's why we're probably going to see a lot of these YouTubers pitiful to pee. Next thing you know, he's going to be bald head with the iconic mustache of the big homie. You dig? Now, the second thing that she did, she shows up and has a normal white girl voice. Yeah, I want to found this company. I think it's going to like revolutionize everything. It's going to be awesome. You know how you have to take blood tests now and like send it off to the lab? We're not going to do that anymore. We have like a little patch, and the patch is going to diagnose what's wrong with you. And the patch is going to deliver antibiotics, and you're going to be totally healed up, and it's going to be beautiful smooches and kisses and kittens. Yeah. So that was her original voice, right? Like a normal white girl who came from tremendous privilege, which is what she's from. And it really burns me up when I have these white women who are complaining about how they're held down. It's like, hold on, you were held down? You grew up upper middle class, living in a goddamn mini mansion in an estate in the most expensive real estate in the developed world. Oh, but you were held down, were you? This is true comedy. Oh, and your parents are very educated, and you're the heir to a fortune. And I forget what the business was, but the heir to a fortune, and you got a great family name. Who held you down? If that's being held down, sign me up. But they got these wild ass stories because everyone wants to have a story that the whole world was against them, whether it's true or not. As a person who actually had that story in real life, like actual disadvantage, being born in the real mud, not the pretend mud, I would have much preferred to have been born middle class or better, hell, even lower class without parents who were on dope. You hear me? Without a dad who was in prison. I would prefer that. And I'd be thankful for it. You hear me? I wouldn't complain that I was born in privilege. I would celebrate. It's called an advantage. But instead, they make up these weird ass Peter Pan stories. And they try to use them to fool you, to fleece you out of your money. And not only did she fleece average people out of their money, and I'm going to talk about it, she fleeced the very wealthy out of their money as well. And she's still getting the expression of an ailing society where we're still going easy on her because she's a white girl from privilege. She's not even getting properly punished. And that's going to be in a later episode. A lot of information here. And it's really, really sad. Shout out to Mr. Buckner, who just got himself a consultation, booked it at cozycow.com/SASN. I'll put the link in there for people who want to do real business instead of just make up fake companies. Here we go. There you go. cozycow.com/SAN. If you want to get expertise from a real businessman who will tell you the truth and help you create a real business instead of defrauding people and ending up in jail. Shout out to Zachary. He writes, just appreciating the game. Peace to the saints. Indeed. Thank you. Now, here's another thing I want you guys to be mindful of. We pointed out the first thing, that she's basically stealing Steve Jobs' appearance so she could look like a genius rather than actually being one. Oh, my goodness. And then here's the second piece. She even tries to steal the voice of a man. Here we go. Take a listen to this, saints. Do confirm that the volume's good.
When you work to change things, and first they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world. And I have to say, I personally was shocked to see that the Journal would publish something like this.
Her voice, her deep baritone voice, was that fake too?
According to my sources, it was an employee who joined the company in 2011, had a meeting with her shortly after he joined, and it was late in the day, and they were finishing up the meeting, and she sort of expressed her excitement that he had recently joined, and as she got up, she forgot to put on the baritone and slipped back into a more natural sounding young woman's voice.
Yep, there you have it. She's a faker. And let me tell you something else that we should take note of. Number one, it is peculiar, and this kills me. Attention, white girls, attention, all white women around the world. Please stop bleaching your hair blonde. It looks very unhealthy. It looks like straw because you've damaged it so badly by robbing it of its natural color. you're obviously not as white as you would like to be. Just take that L and carry on. You know, when you bleach your hair, you look like a poor person because your roots are still black or brown or what have you. And then you got this fake, like whitish color that we all know is fake and unnatural. So white women, please stop doing that. Also, I would like to address Asian women doing this. You're Asian. No one thinks you're blonde. So please, you look like a complete fool. And then black women, I mean, do I really have to say anything? Can someone catch one of them and slap them in that wig next time you see them doing that? It's outrageous. So she's one of those bleach blondes. It's like, love, you're not from Northern Europe. You don't have that purity. You're not one of the Aryans that Adolf was talking about. Just be you. Somebody share the 3-sentence Bible with them, which is be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. You're not being good to yourself when you're bleaching your hair and you look like a poor person because you don't have the money to keep it freshly bleached and them damn roots is looking dark as hell. It's very unattractive. Now, getting back to the core topic with Elizabeth Holmes is number one, they just gave you a sample of her voice, which was clearly concerning. I personally would rather do business with a woman that's a woman, not a woman that's pretending to be a man. Number two, it's very psychopathic when you find a woman who's talking about like, oh, men are trying to hold women down, but you're trying to be a man. Make that make sense. You're saying men are trying to hold you down, which there's nearly no evidence of that because they're obviously allowing you all of your fundraising, the hundreds of millions, it amounted to billions, the billions of dollars that you fleeced people for, that came from men, except one major female donor, which came from her family, which was that wealth was accumulated by men. But all your money came from men. So men are trying to hold you down, yet you're trying to sound like a man. Oh, curious. That's not a major advancement for women, for you to advance under the guise of looking and dressing and talking like a man. Curious. And it's funny how much you blame men for everything and try to sound like a man, yet you still go ahead and put red face paint on your face. Disgusting. Kills me. Anyway, so you're basically hearing, you heard her voice. She sounds like a transformer. And then secondly, you're hearing someone who's being interviewed on CBS point out that one of her former employees heard her real voice. And of course, all the people who know her before she started going on television also heard her voice. And I want to point out to you one other small thing. They call it voice training. Hillary Clinton has gotten this as well because her natural speaking voice is quite annoying and disgusting. Not even just because it's a feminine voice. It's just because it's her voice. She just naturally does not have an appealing voice. And so she's had voice training. Not to say men don't get media and voice training as well. They do. Carrying on with this fake voice here. And you'll get to hear an example of her real voice when she slips up and gets out of character. And that's what you're seeing on the internet, Saints. You're seeing a lot of people are playing characters. You got one guy who's a whole pedophile playing the character of a religious man. I guess that does kind of add up if he was Catholic. Then you got another internet guy. I'm not going to get into it. These people are frauds. Here we go.
Was everything about Elizabeth Holmes a fraud?
A lot of it was a lie.
No, it hasn't. Well, if I use traditional words to describe what we're doing, it's hard because people then associate it with conventional processes for analyzing drugs in development or whatever aspects we may be applying our technology to. But no, it hasn't. Well, if I use traditional words.
Yep, there you go. So what you heard is at the beginning, she basically started speaking in her real voice and then she caught herself and then reverted back to her fake voice. I also think this is an interesting list here. I don't know what kind of scientific backing this has, but it says the top 10 roles that attract psychopaths. Number 1, CEO. I can believe that. Lawyer. Number 2, I certainly believe that. Media, attention seekers. That makes perfect sense. Salesperson. I'm not so sold on that one. Surgeon. I used to have an office at Johns Hopkins Medical. This one is certainly a sensible thing. Journalist. It could make sense. Police officer for sure. Clergy person. That's been proven. Chef. I'm done with this list. I'm done with this list. I don't know if this list make any damn sense. Hey, they just show that crazy ass face she made at the end. Love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. Now, let's get into a little bit of what she actually did. So her initial idea was to create a patch, which was based on her imagination, not real science. And when she spoke to experts, they told her, female experts as well, told her this was not possible. The male experts, led by the penis, told her, yeah, you can do whatever you want to do, and here's a check. And the worst part about it, when you might say, Marquett, were they really led by the penis, or was she, did she have something there? Well, I can tell you that her co-founder, who helped her build this company, he happened to be a very wealthy fellow. I think he was Indian by ethnicity, and he was sleeping with her. And he actually gave her $14 million to get this off the ground. Now, mind you, if you've ever started a business like I have, especially in Silicon Valley, like I have in the tech space, which is essentially what she was in, and I was in hardware and software. She's in hardware and software, obviously at a more sophisticated level because she's dealing with medicine, which means that you have to have higher levels of reliability in your systems. No one starts with $14 million. No one even starts with $1 million. Now, unless you were born with a silver spoon, which she was, but she didn't even use that silver spoon to get this. Of course, she milked the connections that she had, but she pretty much used her vagina. And that's a kind of a cheat code that all women use all the time while complaining that they're disadvantaged. Could I have gotten a $14 million loan as a 19-year-old? As an untested entrepreneur that had no real science behind their technology that was wholly supposed to be based on sound medical science? Of course not. None of us could have done that. Not a white man, not a black man, not an Asian man, not even an Indian man who looked like the guy who gave her the 14 million could have done that. Probably only a white girl could have done that. Yeah, that's white girl privilege. I need to send in an article to New York Times, an op-ed piece called White Girl Privilege, but I have a sad, eerie feeling that it'll never get published. Thank you to those who support the work. Appreciate you. Shout out to the real family. You dig? Radar Rights sends in a super sticker. Much appreciated, Saint. I guess they'd rather I be out here complaining about baby mamas. Got to do some more of that content. God damn, shame on me. Here we go. Check this out. Oh, yeah. And so her idea for the patch eventually evolved from being a patch to being a blood testing solution. So rather than taking a significant draw of a patient's blood, sending it off to a lab, which takes time, and them running it through a number of different tests and saying, hey, you have this issue in your blood, or you have these, this medical diagnosis. She's able to take much less blood and do a rapid test on site without sending it off. That was the idea behind her technology. And I use major air quotes on technology because it didn't work. It was a complete fraud. And I do mean complete. So complete that her medical test, if you took it 3 times, it would give you 3 different sets of results. That's crazy, isn't it? Just imagine you went and took a COVID test and you took it 3 times, and one time it said you have COVID. Next time it said you don't have COVID. Third time it said you have COVID. And took it again, it said it just keeps all over the map because it's fake. Shout out to Justin for supporting the work. He writes, Peace of the Saints Tuition. Appreciate you, family. Absolutely. Shout out to the members as well. Members at patreon.com/the Saint in the Center. So she was a complete scam artist. And let's hear a little bit about this person straight from those who have suffered at her hands.
Walgreens Boots, that's the largest. They have decided that your way is the way to go.
By 2015, Theranos was in about 40 Walgreens stores in California and Arizona.
Access for every person means rolling this out ultimately within 5 miles of every person's home.
And people weren't just investing their money. They were now potentially putting their lives on the line as they turned to Theranos to test for hundreds of diseases, everything from cholesterol to cancer. And Holmes says the next step is to have Theranos centers nationwide.
When will I have?
This girl was trying to make the bag. You heard me? Did you guys hear that she said we want our stuff accessible within 5 miles of every single person? That means she was trying to get the level of scale that was going to make her 100 billionaire, because she was already a billionaire at this point. Now, let me tell you about the dangerous part, and let me tell you that why you should be mad as an American citizen. Number one, the dangerous part is that she sold a product that purported to do medical testing, but it actually didn't do medical testing. So she defrauded an untold number of consumers, and as well, she defrauded the Walgreens chain. In her actual indictment and what she's been charged with, she's already been found innocent of defrauding consumers. She's not going to suffer for that. Also, she should have been hit with negligence charges, like criminal negligence, because in her test, there were people who took her test and it said, you have cancer. Yeah, but they didn't. There are people who took her test and says, you have HIV, but they didn't. So if you tell someone they have cancer or HIV, that's not a crime. That seemed like a crime to me, because we know that a cancer or an HIV diagnosis could cause someone to be suicidal. There's another time that someone else took her test, a female, and they took her test, and this person had a history of miscarriages, and her test said that you are not pregnant, which would suggest that she'd already miscarried. And so she was about to go get a formal abortion to have the fetus removed from her body. Fortunately, she took another backup test, and it confirmed that she was still pregnant, and her pregnancy was a healthy pregnancy, which she carried to term. Her kid is now 6 years old today. So the sad, disturbing part is that the legal system is playing so soft with this girl who potentially put lives at risk, not one or two lives, but we're talking about thousands of lives at risk, who gave people diagnoses of fatal diseases that have no cure. And somehow she escaped all those charges. And the only charges she was found guilty of are those of defrauding investors. I would charge that her criminal negligence goes much deeper than that. And we should be ashamed as a society. And we should probably be out protesting, saying this bee is guilty, deeply guilty of many things, very morally corrupt. Now, here's a funny thing. Let that have been a black guy or a Chinese guy or an Indian guy or shit, even a white guy, any guy. They'd have burned his ass alive for this kind of stuff. They'd have had no mercy and no explanations. But even till this day, you have people making excuses for her. Shout out to the Saint. He writes, she took advantage of the feminist movement as well. Oh, you damn right. Jay Vice writes, appreciate the informative content. Keep it going. Peace to the saints. This content definitely gets the mind activated in a real way, but there's so few intellectuals, which is my challenge. There's so few of us in the leadership class. Rob writes, if a man is unskilled, he will be broke and left to perish. But an unskilled woman always has the option to commodify herself. Ooh-wee. Bruh, you ain't never lied. Shout out to the real ones who see the game in 3D. Man, I got to save that one, add that one to the book of dark truths. That is too real. Yes, indeed. They will leave us outside in the cold, won't they? Let's hear a little bit more about what this sick woman has done. Do confirm that the audio is still good if I don't turn the mic toward the screen.
That opportunity to go use a small test like that and find out data for myself.
Working on it as fast as we can. I can tell you our next states are underway.
One of the new patients was Sherry Ackert, a wife and grandmother, when she began the fight of her life.
I first was diagnosed with breast cancer back in 2013. I had the bilateral mastectomy in the beginning of reconstruction. I had 4 months of chemotherapy. I managed well through the treatments, and I just kind of went back to life, kind of my new normal, I guess.
The new normal after a patient has recovered. Or
I wouldn't mind if they told her to hurry the fuck up and get to the point. I mean, goddamn, females be telling long ass stories, don't they? It's like, goddamn, bitch, we ain't interviewing you about you. We interviewing you about how you got done dirty by Theranos. Get to the point. Wesley writes, appreciate the work, your time, and of course the ism. We must continue to call out evil and stand for righteousness. Indeed. Indeed, we must. And the righteous among us must stand up because there's so few of us. We must be counted. That's the problem. It's like you do stuff like this and unfortunately, it seems to fall on a lot of deaf ears. Almost makes me wonder, like, is this the right way to spend my time?
Or been treated for cancer often involve some form of surveillance testing to check and see if it's possible that something has recurred.
My OBGYN said, do you want to try one of the Theranos labs? I think Walgreens has a great reputation. So, they're willing to bring Theranos in. They must be okay. All right. This is the Walgreens where I had the infamous blood draw. They seemed to know what they were doing, and that was that.
But things take a really terrifying turn when Sherry gets her results.
I will never forget that day. I saw that the estradiol amount was over 300. I also called my oncologist's office, and the nurse called me back and she said, I am so sorry, that's not good. There could be a tumor growing somewhere.
Okay, pay attention to what you just heard, Saints. Basically, this woman went into a Walgreens, got a Theranos test produced by the woman who broke the glass ceiling. And this test is essentially telling her that she has a fatal disease, a tumor carrying on.
That's where your alarm buttons kind of signal more, because then you're saying, why is this value so abnormal right now? Did something happen between then and now? And am I missing something?
The doctor recommends she go to a non-Theranos lab in order to get another test.
It was about a week later, I got the call from my doctor and he said, congratulations, your estrogen is basically non-existent.
Hi, Ben. There's no new tumor, no cancer. The tests were off by hundreds of points, and Sherry says she reaches out to the company.
Now, here's the thing. This woman has been told that she's dying, and not only is she not dying, the test was so inaccurate that she could have went to my bald head ass and said, Marquett, do I have cancer? Yes or no? And I could have just guessed and been more accurate than this scientific test. And here's the worst part about it is they put this medical test out on the market knowing that it was not working. That is the tragedy. This white woman named Elizabeth Holmes, the fake Steve Jobs, the fake deep voice girl, she did this knowing the test didn't work, knowing she'd be putting lives at risk, families at risk. Shout out to Wesley. Okay, actually, we just hit that one. Shout out to Jabriz. He writes, Casey Anthony deleted her baby and got away with it. Bruh, talk to me. Letting you know society is mesmerized by white women. There was an OnlyFans girl who deleted her boyfriend. I think I heard about that one recently. And is now out of jail a week later. Oh, good Lord. Yes, it's getting bad. It's getting bad. Wow, I'm trying to figure out why nobody already blocked Mush. Thank you guys for giving me a heads up on that one. We should have got this guy blocked up out of here a while ago. Psychopath.
And doesn't hear anything back.
No one from Theranos ever called me to apologize. That's the least you can do when you mess up so badly. Not okay.
And it turns out this isn't an isolated incident. Retired dentist Merrill Ellsworth needs to get his PSA level checked to screen for prostate cancer.
My physician said there's a group called Theranos at Walgreens, run by them, get your finger pricked. A normal reading for PSA tests is you want to keep it under 4. The results were 26.1.
Now, trip on this. Consistently, we're seeing that Theranos, this company, is giving results that are not only wildly inaccurate, they're often signaling fatal disease. I mean, you have to wonder why doctors are recommending this when they clearly have not vetted it. And that's because the human being often uses shortcuts, which is they say, okay, if Walgreens is a respected institution, then the things they put out should be respectable, reliable products. So they don't go through all of the back work to verify that these things are legit. Now, might remind you of when this pestilence ravished the land for a couple years and people were wearing all these masks. We just did that without the doctors really engaging in their due diligence, because you have doctors who are recommending to their patients, hey, go take the Theranos test. And this test not only had not been vetted, it was consistently wrong because it didn't work at all. It was a fake. So they're telling patients what to do based on their expertise. Patients are believing the doctors based on the perceived expertise of the doctor and competence. And they're basically ending up in situations where they're hearing that they're dying, which is not true. So would it have been wrong for any of us to question the doctors, Dr. Seuss, Dr. Dre, Dr. Fauci, when they told us that we need to be wearing these masks and that we need to be taking these boosters and all these shots? No, I mean, we were rightfully suspicious. And here's the funny thing. The only time I've had any trouble breathing in the last couple years was when I was wearing a mask. Isn't that funny and ironic? Come on now. What kind of world we living in? Be mindful of yourself. As I say, be yourself, be good to yourself. You have to be good to you, because you can't trust the strangers and the wicked out there to do it for you. I'm going to be releasing this conference 4 footage very soon. And within conference 4, what I did was something very unique. I brought a medical doctor, in fact, an emergency room physician, a good friend of mine, to the conference. And she did about an 1.5-hour session on how you can manage your own health. Because I can tell you, your doctors, it seems like they don't love you in some cases, right? After all, they're just strangers getting paid to help you for a check. So you got to be able to do something for yourself. So when I come out with that conference 4 footage, you better get it and look into what this emergency medicine doctor is telling you. A good friend of mine who came to lecture about your health, because number one, within the Assassin, we talk health, wealth, and relationships. And she came because she cares. Teddy Fresh writes, you have to do years of research and development, prototyping, testing different individuals with different genetic makeup. Got swindled by a fake wannabe. Bruh, tell me about it. Teddy writes, where's my manners? Peace to the saints and shout out to the big homie. Indeed, peace to the saints. Let us all greet one another warmly. That is our way. Carrying on with the fraud.
Very concerning. When you see a value that jumps up that much.
To suddenly be confronted with something that was about 1,300% off normal, that was...
Hold on, bruh. He said it was 1,300% off normal. 1,300%? I swear I could have guessed at it and been more accurate. Wow.
It was not the happiest news when I first heard it the first time. 4 days later, at the urging of my physician, I was retested, and lo and behold, the results were in a very normal range.
Out of an abundance of caution, his doctor suggests a third test.
Test number 3, which was again up in the 20s, something's not right.
Now, did you guys observe that? All 3 of those tests were using Theranos. So not only is their technology faulty, it is not even consistently faulty in the same way. Now, as a software developer, when you have a bug, software is basically running based on mathematics, so to speak. So if you set an algorithm, it's going to give you the same output if you use the same input. You use the same input every time, it's going to give you the same output every time. Whether that output is correct or incorrect, it'll be consistent. That's how programs, that's how robots, machines work. Her technology was so faulty that it's giving different outputs each time, which makes you think, was this like a human being just filling in numbers? Was this a toddler filling in numbers? Because that's not even how an algorithm works. So you have to be very suspicious about the methods they were employing to keep this farce afloat. And what's worse is that we know they knew they were putting patient lives at risk because patients were writing in, doctors were writing in, yet there was no response. And it's ironic for the female who's supposed to be caring and concerned and loving. This one seems to be the opposite. It's funny how when they take on those masculine traits, they become the worst of masculinity. They become completely careless of human life.
For his 4th test, Theranos takes a tube of blood from his arm instead of a drop from his finger.
Vein draw was 0.95, which was the lowest of the bunch.
Goddamn.
It is not normal to get 4 tests to confirm a result. The accuracy of these tests is incredibly important, and it can be really life-changing.
Just side note, why did they throw a random black guy in there who is not saying anything of insight? He's like repeating things that are abundantly clear. Attention, the woke world. We don't need to stick a white, black, Asian, or fill in the blank into every situation just to show that we're diverse. It's getting annoying. I mean, you're just slowing down this short little clip.
Over time, the complaints from customers start coming in. What those customers don't know is that employees on the inside are having real concerns too.
Erica Chung starts working in the lab in 2013. And this is your first job out of Berkeley.
First job out of Berkeley.
At what point do you start to think something isn't right here?
I think the transition happened is when I started processing patient samples.
So you basically start out with a base test.
Yep.
You put that base test in your machine just to say, okay, we know that it's working. We know that it's cleared.
Exactly.
And what happened?
And it kept failing. I kept running it over and over and over. And how it was handled, it totally blew me away. They took out data points and they said, oh, well, this is like the best 2 out of 6, the way that we kind of average things.
Out of Berkeley.
Just side note, can you tell me what is wrong with females today? How in the hell did you come in for an interview with a major news network and your ass is wearing a cut off t-shirt tank top and some jean shorts? What is wrong with women? This broad is wearing denim booty shorts to an interview that is about to be viewed by millions, and you're talking about your professional experience in a very sensitive matter. Just imagine if she'd have been interviewing me and I show up in some goddamn Jordans, a 76ers jersey and some swimming trunks. I mean, that's basically what's going on here. I mean, there's just no standards and no expectation. God damn it. I'm sorry. I just had to point that out. The summary of what she was saying while wearing these denim jean shorts, and the other woman is sitting across from her looking fairly legit. Shout out to her for actually dressing the part. She essentially said, I was a graduate of the University of California, Berkeley. So clearly they're trying to hire people from elite universities, but they're hiring people who are young that they can control and influence, people who are inexperienced. The girl's still intelligent enough to be able to validate if the tests are working. The tests are failing consistently, which is to say they don't work at all, meaning they fail every single time. And she's reporting this to the higher ups, and the higher ups are basically saying, shh, you about to fuck the bag up, girl. Shut up. We don't need no truth in here. We have a synagogue of Satan here. We have a mountain of lies here, and we shall get paid based upon this wickedness. So let you not ruin it with the light of truth. We are operating in the darkness, dear. So just do what you do. We're going to pay you to do what you do. And whether the test passes or the test fails, just keep doing what you do. We're going to cut you the check. The investor's going to cut us the check. Walgreens going to cut us the check. The consumer's going to keep buying. And not until the body stack high will we stop. That was essentially the plan. And during that time, if we figure out how to do what we say we're doing, then we'll do that. But until then, we're going to rake in the billions. That was their actual plan. Yeah, that was their plan. Baller alert. Shout out to the prosperous men, the righteous men. And I'm a true believer that in righteousness is prosperity. When you do the right things in life, it adds up to wealth. I'm a true believer. Joshua writes, peace to the Saints Tuition. Very thankful you brought an MD guest speaker at Conference 4. Health awareness is essential. True indeed. And I also want to throw in not only the physical health, but also the mental health. And those are things that often go in parallel, and you have to manage both of them. And during the conference, we actually talk about having the right people around you to give you the 3 checks. You dig? Man, this is some evil right here.
Controls were failing. At one point, what seemed almost every day, it really ate me up inside. I had a conversation with Sunny Balwani, the CEO of the company. He had asked me, so how do you like working for this company? I said, I really enjoy working for.
Now, this is the old dude that the young blonde, blue-eyed girl, well, she ain't blonde, she's a bleach blonde, that the young blue-eyed white girl of privilege was having sex with to get her initial $14 million. This guy. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say they don't match up. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I'm also go ahead and go out on a limb and say that he was probably like 30 years her senior. I'm all for dating younger women and slaying younger women, but 30 years, that's a hell of a gap. That would be like me slaying somebody who wasn't born yet, right? It's like, I got to go smash her mom while her mom pregnant. You heard me, to achieve this. I mean, this is outrageous. So clearly she was a ruthless individual who was willing to put lives at risk, to serve up her draws, whatever it took to put her in the magazines.
For this company, but there are a lot of problems. We're having a lot of issues with our quality controls. And then he just sort of lost it at that point. And he's like, I'm tired of people coming in here and starting fires where there are no fires.
Erica and others say Elizabeth and Theranos ignore the warning signals from their own people and forge ahead.
We've been able to serve a huge number of people over the course of the last year, and it has been phenomenal.
You know that someone is suffering mental illness when they don't have any level of self-awareness. I want you guys to notice this in the women you date. I see this all the time. And that's why after I slay them, I got to kick them to the curb. Look at this girl's hair. It looks completely ridiculous. It's very unhealthy. It doesn't even look visually attractive because you have the darkness in the roots, and then you have the blonde, which is not even the proper true color of someone who has blonde hair. This is just the color that your hair looks when it's been robbed of pigment. And then the hair looks very brittle and hay-like. She is doing this to her hair on purpose, trying to achieve an aesthetic that is not her. When you see this kind of behavior in the female, you know that you're dealing with someone who is not totally screwed on. There's something dark and like not screwed very tight in her psyche. You might be saying, Quett, you're going too far. No, really. The sickness inside can be seen on the outside, gentlemen. It's the same thing for a guy. You know, those guys who they're like me, I cut all my hair off because it's easier, it's quicker, it's more militant, number of reasons. And it doesn't look the way I want it to look when it's all there. But you got guys who they got like 4 strands of hair and they didn't slick them goddamn strands of hair over their forehead, or they're bald on the top and they still got hair on the sides off some George Jefferson shit. And you're like, bruh, cut that shit off. Well, it's an expression of something ain't right in their goddamn head. And they don't know how to let go. Let go. Anyways, carrying on.
A huge number of people over the course of the last year, and it has been phenomenal.
Elizabeth Holmes is about to face her undoing.
No one would believe it if you just wrote the script. The anonymous whistleblower was George Shultz's grandson.
Did Ms. Holmes know at the time that Theranos could not?
Why is my boy out here smiling like that? He on the snitch stand. He over here snitching. He's smiling like he happy to do it. Maybe he wanted the Saints on the low. He like, I'm about to take this devil down. I'm doing it for the people. This man is over here cheesing so hard. I got to enlarge this photo for you. Let me enlarge this. Look at this man. He is thrilled to get this broad out the way. Lord, he must have tried to smash. And she was like, nah, I'm smashing the old Indian dude. I can't do it. Oh, he looks thrilled. Shout out to Rick. He writes, peace to the Saints tuition. Keep teaching those who are willing to learn. Yes, indeed. That is all we can do as moral men. And there are so many things greater than money. Trey writes, tuition, peace to the Saints. Peace to the Saints. Shout out to the family. You dig? The ones who are members at patreon.com/the Saint in the Center. And as we promote health, this Saturday, we have a workout at 12 p.m. here in Saint City. If you're a member, we have put the information for the location in all of the member sites. And I'll see you all there for a good workout.
Not do all those tests?
Yeah, she.
And while she won't get a Hollywood ending, Elizabeth's story will certainly get the Hollywood treatment.
With Oscar nominee Amanda Seyfried channeling Elizabeth Holmes.
Anybody who doubts my company doubts me.
Part of the human trait, being fascinated by a train wreck. Can't peel your eyes away.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos.
George Stephanopoulos here. George, shut your ass up, boy. Ain't nobody trying to hear what you're talking about, George. Okay, Saints. So that was episode 1. We'll see if you guys want me to do an episode 2, but she's actually been charged. So what's happened, and just to give you a little summary, is you got a 19-year-old kid goes into Stanford University, tells a very well-respected female doctor who's an expert in this field. Hey, I have an idea that's going to revolutionize the world. The doctor is in her head like, are you on dope, kid? Here's the idea. Tells her you're a fool and this is impossible. So you should probably try to get you a bachelor's degree and learn a little bit and then try to start a company when you have some experience maybe, or some knowledge, for example, or some humility, whatever, any of the foregoing. And then Shorty says, nah, F you, goes to the guys. The guys thinking with their penis and being, weak. They say, oh, yes, little 19-year-old white girl with no experience, no knowledge, and a tremendous amount of narcissism. Yes, I'm going to follow you. And so they do. One of them even quits his job as a professor at Stanford. I kid you not, to join her company. True beta male behavior. You've quit a prestigious role so that you can be an inferior position to a 19-year-old girl. Okay. Wow. Then she starts sleeping with an Indian gentleman who's clearly well off, gets him to fork up $14 million. If that's not a trick, what is a trick? He forks up $14 million. They co-found the company. They hire a bunch of people, all with science backgrounds from elite universities. These people say, hey, this doesn't work. They say, shh, we don't care if it's killing people. It's making money. I think that she stole that line from the American government. We don't care if we're killing people. We're making money. So they carry on with that. Then eventually too many bodies are stacking up. And so she gets indicted. She's indicted with a number of charges, some of which circle around the idea of you're defrauding customers, consumers, average people like you and I, not the people who are 100 millionaires, but the people like you and I. You're defrauding us and you're killing us. And then the government says, you know what? That's not so important. We're going to drop those charges. So she isn't found guilty of that. She's found guilty of defrauding investors, which is a much lighter charge. And so basically the only people who matter in the eyes of the government are the 100 millionaires who gave her literally hundreds of millions of dollars and made her the first and youngest female billionaire on the planet Earth. And so now she has all these billions to fight this case. So she has billions of dollars to fight this case. And if she has any common sense, which we know she does, she's hidden some of these billions in offshore accounts where no one can ever get to them. And at the end of the day, we don't think the government wants to get to it anyways, because she's very much so connected, because she grew up in the lap of luxury with a silver spoon in her mouth. And that's part of the reason she was able to leverage all of that background as well as her white female privilege to raise an obscene amount of money for a technology that didn't even work. And it's funny because medicine is a highly regulated industry, and somehow through all the government regulations, they failed. Wait, Marquett, the government regulations failed? Are you telling us that the government does not properly test medical things before they deliver it to the US population in one of the most developed countries in the world? So are you telling me that if it's possible they sent a faulty test out, a blood test, no less, that could tell you if you have cancer, HIV, or many other deadly diseases? They sent that out and it didn't even work? Are you telling us that some of the other shots and boosters and things like that they told us to take could have not been properly vetted? Yes, that's what I'm telling you. Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. So then she's currently on trial. She was found guilty of defrauding investors, and now they're in the sentencing phase, which they're drawing out. And by the way, during this whole time, she's been free. She's been found on nice walks in the park in San Francisco while she's hanging out with her fiance, who is also wildly wealthy. And she is not only living a free life, she's also living in a luxury accommodation. Oh, isn't life so good? Isn't it good to be a rich white girl? Isn't it good? Can't we all be rich white girls? Maybe we need a new t-shirt called I want to be a rich white girl when I grow up. What do you think? Let me know if we need to make that t-shirt. I want to be a rich white girl when I grow up. That could be a good one. Maybe we'll put her face on it. We can put that on our new tank top because we're producing new tank tops. I just dropped a new tank top at mdblabel.com. Maybe this will be the next one. Balma Cody writes, we'll catch the replay as usual. Thank you for these current events and news videos. Yes, and so right now we're waiting to sentence her. We'll see what the sentence is, being that they've dropped the charges and only taken the lesser charges of financial crimes rather than the real heavy crimes she actually committed. We're going to see that she's going to get some really light sentencing, and this is sad. What can you do? Saints, I'll give you a little bit of time to send in your thoughts, questions, comments as we wind down. says make it in white. I hear you. Tyler says, Saint, get the likes up. Only 217 likes. Likes are free. I know it's very strange. And this is one of the things that makes me wonder, like, man, am I doing the right thing? Who am I talking to? You know, you can see me, but I can't see you. And I sit here and ask myself, you know, what kind of person am I talking to if they don't click the like button? Not that it really matters because I don't run ads on the channel, right? So, you know, if there's more likes and they push out the video more, it's not going to make me any money because I don't run any ads. You never watch my video and get interrupted by ads. I don't make any money on a replay. I make no money whatsoever. So clearly my true interest is that the information gets out there. My true interest is that we bring more people into this way of thinking, into this civilization, so we can make positive change in the world. Now, that's why we want you to click the like button. It doesn't make me a penny. Doesn't do anything for my life. It just brings our message to a greater number of persons. And so I truly wonder, like, you know, what kind of people are out there? They watch the whole video. They don't click the like button, and it costs them nothing. It doesn't hurt them at all. It always makes me wonder. I want to be a rich white girl. I'm telling you, bro. Anyways, peace to the saints.